All right, let's get right into it. Something huge is happening on the world stage, and it's all about two giants, India and Russia. They're not just trading more, they are aiming for a number so big it could literally redraw the economic map.
$100 billion. That's the incredibly ambitious target India and Russia have set for their annual trade by 2030. And a number like that isn't just a headline, it's a massive signal that a major strategic shift is underway. So what's really going on here? Is this just about business, or are we seeing the start of something much, much bigger? Maybe a fundamental change in global alliances? That's exactly what we're going to break down.
Okay, first things first. To really wrap your head around that $100 billion goal, you have to see just how fast this relationship is moving. We're not talking slow and steady. This has been, well, explosive. Just look at these numbers. The speed is just wow. Back in 2021, their trade was about $13 billion. Respectable, right? But fast forward just a few years to today, and it has absolutely skyrocketed to almost $69 billion. That's more than a five-fold jump in just 4 years. Suddenly that $100 billion target, it starts to look pretty achievable, doesn't it?
And because of that crazy surge, Russia has shot up the ranks to become India's number 4 trading partner. Now, this isn't just some small shuffle in the list. This is a historic high, a really big deal for Russia in the modern era.
So you have to ask, why now? Why is all of this happening with such intensity? Well, it's definitely not a coincidence. You've got what is basically a perfect storm of political and economic forces pushing these two giants closer and closer.
Let's break it down. On one side, the US has hit India with some pretty steep tariffs for buying Russian oil. At the same time, Russia's dealing with its own mountain of Western sanctions, so it's desperately looking for new, reliable partners. And who desperately needs affordable energy? India. It's a perfect match. But underneath it all, there's this shared goal. They both want an economic future that's way less dependent on the West.
And really, the beating heart of this whole partnership is energy. Right now, Russia supplies nearly 40% of India's total energy imports. We're talking oil, gas, and coal, often at a nice discount. It's no exaggeration to say Russia has become absolutely critical to keeping India's economy humming.
But, and this is a really big but, while the growth is off the charts, the relationship itself is, well, it's far from equal. In fact, it's incredibly lopsided, and that's creating a major challenge for both countries.
Take a look at this. The flow of trade is almost completely one way. India is buying a staggering $63.8 billion worth of stuff from Russia, mostly energy and defense gear. In return, India is sending back only about $4.8 billion in things like medicine, agricultural goods, and machinery.
Just think about that for a second. A 9 times gap. For every single dollar of goods India sells to Russia, it's buying $9 worth back. That is a huge, challenging imbalance.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't some analyst pointing this out. Indian officials are on the record saying that this situation, it just can't last. Both countries know that for this partnership to really work long-term, it has to become much more of a two-way street.
So how do you fix a problem like that? Well, to solve this imbalance and kind of insulate their trade from outside pressures, India and Russia are doing something pretty radical. They're building an entirely new system from the ground up.
They're tackling this on a few different fronts. First, they're working to cut tariffs and other red tape to make Indian goods cheaper in Russia. Second, they're developing payment systems that use their own currencies, the rupee and the ruble. Third, they're planning new transport routes to move goods faster. And then there's the big one. They're negotiating a full-blown free trade agreement between India and the whole Russia-led Eurasian Economic Union.
Now, that point about using their own currencies, that might be the most significant part of this whole story. Over 90% of their trade is now done without using the US dollar. They've essentially created their own financial pipeline, one that operates outside of Western control and is immune to dollar-based sanctions. This is a direct challenge to the global financial system as we know it.
So, when you put all these pieces together, the massive trade volume, the strategic reasons behind it, and this creation of a new financial system, you have to step back and ask, what is the big picture here? What's really being built? While some analysts have started calling it a new Eurasian axis, the idea is that this isn't just a two-country deal. It's the foundation for a whole new economic bloc that stretches across that huge Eurasian landmass, creating an alternative center of power to the one dominated by the US and Europe. And if this axis really gets going, the ripple effects would be global. It could completely reshape how energy flows around the world. It would offer other countries a non-Western financial system to plug into. And of course, it directly undermines the effectiveness of sanctions against Russia, creating all new power dynamics, especially across Asia.
Ultimately, this all puts India in a fascinating and, let's be honest, pretty tricky position. It's performing this delicate balancing act, trying to keep its good relationship with the West while at the same time building this incredibly powerful new connection to the East. It's a geopolitical tightrope walk, and you can bet the entire world is watching.
And that leaves us with the final critical question. The story of India and Russia's $100 billion ambition is about a lot more than just oil and rupees. It's about a fundamental contest over who gets to set the rules for the 21st century global economy. And right now, the answer to that is far from certain.